Hi everyone, this is Kat from Whisper AI. We specialize in AI voice solutions and automations, and today is just a walkthrough tutorial of how to set up elastic zip trunks in Twilio for VAPI AI Australian mobile numbers. So you can follow me through in this video, but the assumptions I have first is, one, you will have already set up an agent in VAPI. Number two, you will have already purchased a mobile number in Twilio for Australia, and you will have set up your regulatory bundles to be able to do so, and that you also have an account in Postman. That can be a free account set up that you want, that you have your VAPI account and your Twilio account set up. Okay, so for those of you who are at that space, you'll be quite welcome to follow along with this. Others of you who have not yet bought a number, I suggest you do so and then come back to this video when you have done so. So in Twilio, what we want to do is go to Elastic Zip Trunks. If that's not in your account dashboard, you can type it in up here in the jump to box and it'll bring this up, but just make sure when you go into it that you select Australia over here on the left menu. Make sure you're not in the US. So once you've opened that up, come down to the elastic zip trunking. We want to come down to manage and trunks, which is essentially the page that we are in now, and then we want to create a new zip trunk. You can call this whatever you want. But yeah, make sure it's something that means something to you, essentially, especially if you're going to be creating a lot of these. I find you have to hit that twice for some reason. And then when we've come into this, we come down to termination over here on the left-hand side. Now for termination, now I should just point out that the one we're creating first is for outbound. So once we're in the termination section of this, we need to create the zip URI. Now, again, you can call this whatever you want, but you need to avoid capital letters and symbols. And the example that was in Jonas Massey's video, which I will link below this, because Jonas actually goes into how to port a local number in, which I'm not going to go through in this video. But yeah, so you can basically call it whatever you want, but if we come back in here, you'll see that pstn.twilio.com is already in there. So what I want to just do is, I'm just going to call it the exact same thing as my friendly name. But again, you have to make sure it's all lowercase. You can do dashes, but you cannot do underscores, for example. So when you click out of that, you'll see this check availability. And if that little green available comes up, that means you're good to go. So from once we've done that, we then scroll down to authentication. So in the same screen, we come down to here, the IP access control lists, hit the plus button. Friendly name, we're going to call this VAPI because it's our VAPI credentials we're putting in here. And this will be number 1. Now, these you can find these in the VAPI documentation, but I will also drop it into the comments of this video. So that's your first one, and then over here you put 32. Don't worry about a friendly name, and hit create ACL. And then we need to add our second one, which is VAPI 2. Again, I'll be dropping these into the comments so you don't have to go looking for them, although they are pretty easy to find in the VAPI documentation. That is 32 again, don't worry about the friendly name. Create ACL. So when you've got those two set up, you can now save your SIP trunk. So down the bottom here, you'll see this blue save. We click that. And you'll get this, you've successfully updated your SIP trunk. Now we want to go to numbers from the side menu. And in here, we want to add an existing number. So this is where I've said at the start of the video, it's good if you've already purchased a number that you want to use. So we can go add a number, add an existing number, and it will bring up all of the current numbers you have. So I'm going with this unassigned one. Add selected. And that's all we need to do in Twilio for now. Now we're going to go across to Postman, which again, I said you can use this as a free account. I think you get 20 days free or 30 days free. I'm currently still in my free one. You don't have to use Postman. You can use something else if you know of anything. And then what we want to do in, yes, actually, this is where I got caught earlier. Just be careful. When you are setting up your Postman to send the code through to VAPI, number one, we want a post action here. Under authorization, you need to add a bearer token. Yeah, sorry. You need to add a bearer token, and this needs to be your VAPI private key. Yeah, so your VAPI private key. So I'm just going to pause the video and drop mine, in here. When you are setting up your VAPI private key as the bearer token, it's a good idea to set it up as a value to help encrypt it and keep it safe. And there's information on that when you put it up. So that details over here. And I'll also drop into the notes, which you can refer to that actual step-by-step guide on how to set that up in Postman. Okay, so once we have that bearer token set up, that means you'll actually be able to send the call when you do it. So that's under the authorization. So now we want to go back to up here. What we want to do first in this is we want to create the credential for the actual SIP trunk. So that is the https api.vapi.ai credential. So just drop that in there. And then in the body field, I will also drop this coding into the form. What you'll see here is I've left notes in this one. So what we want to do is copy paste that in here, and then remove my text. So this, my zip trunk, this is, you call it whatever you want. So again, I'm gonna stick with what I called the zip trunk, and then I'm just gonna remove that. Your SIP server com, this is the termination SIP URI. So just find that termination SIP URI. So if we come back into your Twilio number, go back to termination. And that's this one, so whisperAIdemo.pstn.twilio.com. So we can take that, sorry, back in Postman. So we want that .pstn.twilio.com. Just check that's correct. pstn.twilio.com. And so we can remove this. Inbound enabled false. For this, because it's outbound, I think we can actually remove that, but I might leave it for now because this is based on the VAPI code that they provide in their document. So I'm just going to leave that one in there. Outbound leading plus enabled true, we can leave that. Outbound authentication plan. Auth username, this is if you want to set up a credential password and username for your SIP trunk in Twilio. I'm not necessarily going to use that in this demo, so I'm just going to remove that. Now, the error we've got here is I've got a comma at the end of that when I don't need it. And we may not need that second one there. Okay, so all our red bugs telling us things are wrong seem to have gone away. So now we want to hit send, and this should give us a body response. There we go. So that we got a 201, so that worked. And what we want from here is this ID tag. So copy that ID number at the top and paste it somewhere handy. So it's this one here that we want. Copy that. Open up Notepad or something to drop that into. Drop that in there for later. And then what we want to do is create a post for the actual phone number. So we go back into Postman. We want to go create a new post. So essentially we just want to change this credential up here to be phone number at the end. Phone number, we want to remove this. we can keep the authorization that's in there. That's your VAPI code that you set up earlier. And now we want to drop in this BYO phone number code, which is this code here. Again, I will upload this document for you. Now, in here we've got BYO phone number, name. This can be whatever you want. So again, I'm just going to stick with what I've been calling everything else. Keep it simple. I will then get rid of my text over here. The phone number, when you put this in, this is the phone number you've actually attached to the agent. So if I go back into Twilio and I go into numbers, and you'll see it's that one there that I've assigned to this zip trunk. So I want to copy that, come back into Postman, put that in there. You want to get rid of that gap between the bracket. You want that number E164 check enabled. That's important. Leave that as is. And then this credential ID. This is the ID number we just copied from the last JSON code. So we pick this up again that we just copied. Copy that. Bring it into here. Paste it there. I can get rid of this. And where do we have something wrong? Is it that? Alright, I have a coding error. Which line is it? Yeah, something to do with the number. Value expected 516. Okay, so that's now got no errors in it. So again, now that we've got that credential ID in there, the number that we want to associate with the zip trunk, the name of that, we can then go ahead and press send. And we get that 201 created. So now if we go back into VAPI under our phone numbers, you should see, if we refresh it, you'll see that number has now come into VAPI to be associated with your agent. So that's the last thing we need to do in Postman. And then to create your inbound number, while we're at it, under the zip trunk, I will test these in a minute, but under your zip trunk, if we go back into here, we want to go under the origination menu. So down here under origination, we want to add an origination URI. So this is going to be SIP dot the number that you're going to use for your inbound SIP VAPI AI. So for example, it's this one down here, which I created earlier, and I'm using the same number, so that will actually work for me. So we want to add a new one, and I'm just going to paste that in there. And then we can click add. And it's saying origination URL added. We don't need to worry about anything else in that page. And because we're using the same number as for our outbound, we don't need to do this second postman to bring the number in. And so now we can go into VAPI and sorry, I just want to make sure, do we have to save it? No, that's fine. So we can go back to sorry, I just want to go out of there, and I want to come down here, and I want to go into my trunks. Okay, that is great. Now that is that one that has been set up there. And what we want to do now is actually test that agent out. So in here, if I come down to outbound, we want to say Australia, and I want to enter in which is my number. I want to select an assistant, do the outbound one, and now we're going to make a call, and I will hold my phone near the microphone so you can actually hear it ring.
Thanks for taking my call. This is Adam, Whisper AI's digital assistant. Listen, I know my call is an interruption to your day.
So I hope you could hear that on the recording of this demo, but that worked perfectly well. And then I'm also now going to go ahead and actually call that number and make sure that the inbound assistant replies. So I can, in the VAPI setting here, I just want it for the inbound. I'm going to set up a separate agent for inbound, which is this one. And we just want to say save up here because I didn't save earlier, which is probably foolish of me, but yeah, so now I'm going to call that number.
Hi, this is Adam, an AI digital assistant for Whisper IE. How can I help you?
Perfect. Okay, so as you can see, and I hope you could hear that, that is exactly how you set up inbound and outbound SIP trunking for VAPI AI. Big thank you to Jonas Massey, whose video helped me get to this point. I had to do a little bit more research on setting up the authorization in Postman and a few other things, but I do hope that's helpful for other Australian builders of voice AI, because this is one particular point that has been driving me nuts for months. So I will link the document in the video so you can access that, and I will also drop in Jonas Massey's YouTube link, because he actually goes into a lot more detail about what SIP trunking is and also how to port a local number in. So I hope you found that helpful.